Hello and welcome to Hispanic Agenda, Washington's only bilingual news program. I'm Alejandro Negron. Thank you for watching and happy Mother's Day weekend. On today's agenda, the first Latina elected to the Maryland State House hopes to be the first Latina congresswoman in the state. Ana Sol Gutierrez joins me today. But first, immigration policy will play a major role in the 2016 presidential election, and a major candidate is pledging to go farther than any other on immigration reform. Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton spoke on the issue during a campaign stop in Las Vegas. Let's discuss the details with this week's roundtable. ABC 7 News, Jeanette Reyes, attorney Mo Vela, ex-advisor to Vice President Biden, and Judy Pino from the Libre Initiative. Welcome back, Judy. We haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Well, welcome back, all of you. We haven't seen Jeanette in a while either. Jeanette, I'll start with you. What did Hillary Clinton say? How would she expand not only the DACA program and the DAPA program, but what else would she propose?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty bold move in terms of it being somewhat unprecedented. If she wants to give a full path of citizenship to the parents of dreamers, it's really something that no other, I mean, even from a Democratic standpoint, no other president has done. So if you didn't like what President Obama did, you're probably not going to like what she did, even less. But it's something that Republicans are extremely against, that they would not like to do, that they're really pulling back on. And she was bold in saying that this is exactly what I will do. And don't believe the others when they say they're selling you on something similar.
Mo Vela, what did you think about her plan? And we can get into the politics of it too, you know, how it would play out in the presidential election and how it would affect Republicans.
Well, I think
also.
Let's start with the underlying premise, if you will, right, which is you're not going to win the 2016 presidential election without the Latino vote in this nation. What a great place for us to be as a community, right, as Latinos. And I think Secretary Clinton is a realist, and she's being pragmatic and she's being smart, because it makes no economic sense, right, and it's illogical to think that you're going to take 11 million people plus and just simply remove them from the nation, remove them from our society, remove them from our economy. Absolutely impossible to do, just impossible.
This is somebody that I don't think has a track record with Hispanics, unlike Jeb and Marco, who really understand the Hispanic community, can speak their language. So, I mean, I think for her to pick Cinco de Mayo and to talk about all these things, it sounds like a lot of over-promising, and I'm not sure she's going to be able to deliver if she actually makes it to the White House. We've seen it happen
let's talk
with
about that.
Obama.
Let's talk about that.
Well, recent polls show, even with Republicans, you have Republicans that would prefer for the next president to reverse what President Obama has done, but they're not completely against voting someone that doesn't exactly reverse it. So it's not exactly risky. I think in his words, it's realistic. If you want to win the Latino vote, we know overwhelmingly Latinos support this move. And then again, Republicans aren't totally against it if you can offer the full package. So I think for this election, it's a lot of, okay, it's not just this, it's not just immigration. What else can you offer me? And maybe I can negotiate with you, and maybe you can win my vote. Yeah, I don't know that it's risky at all.
Can I just add one point?
Yeah.
You know, I think for anybody to use the word lawlessness is just ridiculous. Look, everybody who's proposed immigration reform, from the Secretary to President Obama, anybody, Democrats, even the Republicans, Marco Rubio was part of this. Look, people broke the law. This is a country of laws. I'm an attorney, right? We kind of take an ethics oath, right? If you break the law, you're to be punished in our nation, right? That's the way we're set up. Right. And so nobody's suggesting lawlessness. What we're saying is you will be punished, right? But we will give you a pathway to citizenship. There's a big difference between lawlessness and being punished and developing a pathway.
But I think there's a concern about the tone, where we're going to get another president that works through executive order, especially on issues of immigration. We need somebody who's really going to unite the country, not divide the country.
That's a good
and
point.
So, yeah. And so what we need is somebody that will actually work to pass this in a bipartisan manner.
Talk about pandering. By the way,
So that's because they weren't in agreement with what they had to, I mean,
But what of it could you not be in agreement with? We're going to punish people who broke the law. You're going to give them a pathway to citizenship. And here's the hypocrisy with
it
Republicans.
wasn't as black and white.
But
I think what the Republicans are looking at is basically securing the border. That's the way they see it. They want to do it in parts and pieces, not comprehensive.
Our border is more secure than it has ever been in the history of this country.
How do you know?
I grew up on that border. I grew up on the border in Brownsville. My cousin is the congressman, and my uncle's the congressman from
People
the adjacent
come in through
district on the
Brownsville
border.
every single day.
Well, we're talking about the other top politicians, and I think the pressure's on. Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, what she did was extremely bold. Marco Rubio isn't necessarily the favorite among Hispanics. He might be Hispanic, and this has been studied before. You might be Hispanic, you might speak the language, but you got to give me more than that.
But he's reversed on it, right? Now he's not for his own bill.
Right.
Talk about
Well, you're
pandering.
also talking about Hillary, who said that we should send all those children back during the summer when you had all the kids coming back. So you can't have it both ways.
Great debate. Thank you, all of you, for a great debate. And they'll stick around. We have another topic we want to discuss with the roundtable. I don't know if it's going to be as controversial. Find out. When we come back, the U.S. government approves a ferry service to Cuba. What that means for you if you plan to visit the island and how it could potentially impact the island's economy. Coming up on Hispanic Agenda. Welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. I'm Alejandro Negron. I want to welcome this week's roundtable, ABC 7 News, Jeanette Reyes, attorney Mo Vela, ex-advisor to Vice President Biden, and Judy Pino from the Libre Initiative. Next item on the agenda, ferry service to Cuba. The Obama administration approved the first ferry service in decades between the United States and Cuba, opening a new path for the hundreds of thousands of people and hundreds of millions of dollars in goods that travel between Florida and Havana each year. So let's see how the roundtable feels about this issue. Another controversial issue, but a very important one, specifically for the Cuban people. As a Cuban American, Judy Pino, how do you feel about this opening in Cuba, not only as a market, but as an opportunity for the United States to influence what happens there through commerce?
I just think that a lot of people, a lot of business people are going to benefit, but I don't think it's going to translate to something positive for the Cuban people on the island. I don't think it's going to transfer to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, you know, for them to have their own businesses without any issues, for them to be able to freely do the things that we do here in the United States.
Mo Vela.
Well, I simply say, first of all, it's too soon to tell. We're just starting, so let's wait and see what happens. Let's give the Cuban people an opportunity, and I think it's a
Well,
really...
the dictators? Or
No,
the
I
people
think,
that are living?
listen, the belt you have on is made in China. You bought that and it was made in China.
You don't
We
know
should
that.
be
Have you
able
looked
to,
at the-
well, we talked about it when we were off air, right? But when we're buying something, if it's made in Cuba, I'll be thrilled that it's made in Cuba.
Very good.
What's the difference?
And Jeanette, you'll have the last
if
word.
if you step back, you notice there's a lot of talk about how the U.S. can benefit, and I think we should be very careful and put the spotlight more on the Cuban people and see how they'll benefit. I don't know that there's been a lot of conversation about
Voice
that.
of reason.
I don't disagree with that.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Judy Pino, Mo Vela, and Jeanette Reyes, thank you so much for your time and thank you for your insight. Enjoyed it. And thank you for the passion, too. You know, we
He's
felt
full
it
of
today.
passion.
All passion today on these roundtables. Well, coming up, the first Latina elected to Maryland's House of Delegates, Ana Sol Gutierrez, joins me next. We'll review the legislative session that just ended and her run for Congress. Stay with Hispanic Agenda here on News Channel 8. Welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. I'm Alejandro Negron. Ana Sol Gutierrez began her political career in 1990 after winning a school board seat in Montgomery County. That made her the first Salvadoran American to be elected to public office in the country. In 2002, she became the first Latina in the Maryland State House, and now she wants to become the first Latina to represent Marylanders in Congress by winning the seat being vacated by Chris Van Hollen. Ana Sol Gutierrez, welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. It's a pleasure to have you on. We missed you.
It's delightful. I'm really glad to be back and join you again.
It's always great to talk to you because you're very blunt, you're very direct, and we can have a good conversation. I think the audience enjoys that. Let me first ask you about the legislative session in Maryland, which just ended, and ask you about what you and your colleagues were able to accomplish this year.
Well, it was an exciting session because it was a brand new start. We had a very different composition, largest number of House new elected delegates in history, and so it was kind of a settling down. We didn't really know where people were going to be and what issues were going to be raised. And I can say that probably the toughest issue and the main issue was getting a budget. We had a new governor, and
A Republican governor?
A Republican governor who I think surprised us all, because what he included and what he cut in the budget was not what he had run on. He cut education, for example. He never said.
But education, isn't education getting a record number of dollars this year? An increase of 109 million?
Well, every year, because of our formulas, it does get breaks the record because it's based on enrollment. And so we're growing more kids, especially in Montgomery County and Prince George's are the fastest growing, and Baltimore County.
So the reason there's an increase of $109 million to the education budget has to do with a formula,
With
not
a formula,
necessarily
exactly.
anything done by the legislature or the governor.
Exactly. Now, the governor can change that formula, and that's what he proposed, to do it in the out years, to cap it so that it would not reflect growing enrollment. We did not accept that. We did not change the law for the future formula.
And you guys are seeking more funding for something called the Geographic Cost of Education Index. First, if you can explain what that is, how it works, and why you need more money, in your opinion.
Well, it's what it says it is. It's unfortunately that is so complicated. Geographic cost of education means that in certain areas in Maryland, it costs more to educate a child than in more rural areas. And these are the bigger counties, Montgomery County, Prince George's, Baltimore City, and Baltimore County. Actually, quite a few, about 13 of our counties, have a higher than the medium cost of what it takes to educate a child.
Now, what I understand is that 8 out of 13 counties affected by the Geographic Cost of Education Index will be getting additional funding, or the funding that they requested. 8 out of 13.
Well, if GCEI is not funded, they're not going to get that. The education funding is quite complex, and that's why it lends itself to be manipulated. But GCEI is essential, especially for the fastest growing, expensive counties.
All right, let's move on and talk about something that we've been paying attention to, as the whole nation has, the Freddie Gray case and the situation in Baltimore and policing communities of color. There's a lot of talk about reforming the system. I know that this was happening as the legislative session was ending, but there's talk now about reforming the system for next year. What are you guys talking about?
Alejandro, Baltimore City has been a long-standing problem. What we saw was an eruption of what have been years and years of neglect, especially for the poor neighborhoods in Baltimore City. The fact that there's been conflict with the police goes back to the Martin O'Malley when he was the mayor of the city. He increased the power of the police and made it go after. It was kind of the same thing as New York, where no broken windows. Go after, and even if it's a small offense, get tough. Well, that hasn't worked, and what we've seen is an increase in the conflict between the police and innocent bystanders, in my opinion, that are poor and that are unemployed, and you're seeing this grow. Now, we've had Policeman's Bill of Rights that slowly has been giving them more and more privileges, the police. And one is that you cannot investigate any matter until after 10 days where they are prepared.
We were speaking with a lead organizer for Casa de Maryland a couple of weeks ago about that, and she brought that up, and she says that it's stuck in Annapolis, that it's very hard to get anything going on that. Do you think that the Freddie Gray case and everything that's happened after that, and now that those police officers have been charged, that this is going to bring some change?
Absolutely. It's not just Baltimore. We've seen it nationwide. We saw other cases in which really there is evidence that police are being much more abusive, much more aggressive, and in some cases have actually cost the death of an individual without any investigation, without any way that the public can find out what really happened. And that's what's happening now. And we've got to change it. What
about police body cameras?
We're definitely going to move forward with that. The problem is that doesn't solve. I really think the essence of it is a lot more training and clear guidelines as to what it is that you can and you can't do, and transparency. transparency. We absolutely cannot have the police department going off and saying, we'll investigate and we will share with the public what we find out. That is no longer going to be
And of course,
viable.
there's issues of privacy as well with these
Privacy, yes. The cameras, I think, are good, but it can always be turned off. And who controls the tape? There's a lot of issues.
And
I
files
think
can get lost. And
yes,
things
yes,
could happen.
yes. And we already took one step that actually does allow the use of cameras. Before it was very hard because there was a liability issue. So we've taken one step, but we're going to come back and really revisit this and make it so that even local police also are able to use the camera in an appropriate manner.
All right, we're speaking with Ana Sol Gutierrez, who's going to stay with us for one more segment. More with Maryland State Delegate Ana Sol Gutierrez when we come back, including her campaign to win Maryland's 8th district and become the first Latina congresswoman from Maryland. Coming up on Hispanic Agenda. Welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. I'm Alejandro Negron. We're joined by Maryland State Delegate Ana Sol Gutierrez, the first Salvadoran American ever elected to public office. And she's successful, the first Salvadoran American to get to Congress from Maryland. Welcome back, Ana Sol.
The first Salvadoran ever. We don't have any Salvadoran representation at the congressional.
You don't have any Salvadoran?
No,
Not
no,
even
no.
In LA?
No,
Texas,
no. There are no congressmen. There are only Cubans and Mexicans and Puerto Ricans.
And Puerto Ricans. And of course, the Salvadoran community is growing.
We outnumber Cubans now.
All right, so let's talk about this race. So you want to become the next congresswoman. I know that you will be the first Latina congresswoman from Maryland, but that's not necessarily the reason why you're running. Tell me about the district, tell me about the 8th district, and tell me what you want to do for the folks watching that live there.
Well, let me start out by saying this is a unique opportunity. It's never happened. I've been in public office now for 25 years, and we've never had an opening like this, which is a race that's wide open, that doesn't have a clear winner, a clear leader. In all my years, I feel like
you have pretty good competition. You have a former Obama aide, you have a colleague of yours, a state delegate,
2 colleagues,
a state senator,
yes.
also.
Yes. But I just feel like I've been training for this all my life in local office, in state office, and I also worked for the Clinton administration. So I know the power of what the national government. But Alejandro, there are issues that we can't resolve at the state level, that we're stuck at the state level.
What are those issues?
Well, obviously the economics, this huge inequity that we're seeing in wages. I think we need to start really focusing on addressing the inequities, the lack of opportunities for so many people, and wages that keep on going down.
It's interesting that you say that, because that district, I guess the median income is over $90,000.
But concentrating very few. It is also one of the most diverse economically. We have, ask any waiter, ask anybody who's working in a hotel, ask any person who's cutting grass, how they're living in a very wealthy county, in the wealthiest state in the nation is Maryland. But that's why I think I can uniquely represent, I care about women who are waitresses and getting below the minimum wage, as well as my key focus has been immigrants.
Now, let me ask you about what, and all those things, I guess, differentiate you from the rest. There's one more other issue, which is you're different than the rest. You're 73 years old. You're 73 years old. Are you going to make your opponent's youth and inexperience an issue in the campaign as Ronald Reagan? Is age an issue?
Well, I hope not, because I really feel that I've got lots and lots of experience to bring to the table. That is important. It's important particularly in this Congress. We need to be able to come together, but with real policy knowledge. I've made so many budgets at the local level in schools and and now at the state level, I know how programs need to be funded. I know how important the programs are for, especially for the needy. The social economic agenda is so important to have a voice. And as you know, and as everybody knows, immigration can only be fixed at the federal level.
Which is something that the current seat holder, Van Hollen, Congressman Van Hollen, also supports immigration. When you compare with him and his priorities, how would you compare?
Oh, I think he's wonderful. I absolutely support Chris Van Hollen, and I'm
both
delighted.
are Democrats. But
We're Democrats. He's moving on to the Senate in seeking this race, but I think I'm to the left of.
You're to the left of Chris Van Hollen.
I'm to the left of almost everybody.
I am. We've heard, and we've been witnesses of that
in other
here
words,
in this program.
I think it's important to pull from the left because we need to have a much more progressive view. We need to address things that right now are just ignored.
So when you talk about you're to the left of Chris Van Hollen and most people, you're talking about mostly economic issue.
Social issues,
social
also
issues,
health, poverty. Perhaps Bernie Sanders and I are more sympathetic to each other.
Would you support Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton?
Oh,
Hillary would probably.
I'm very dedicated to Hillary. I worked with her and her husband in the administration.
Right.
And
we have to wrap. We wish you luck. I hope you come back.
I hope so. You'll
continue to
invite
come back.
me.
Absolutely, we will.
Okay.
Ana Sol Gutierrez, thank you so much.
Gracias, Alejandro.
Con mucho gusto. Please check out our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Tune into Telemundo Washington for the Spanish version of this program, and be sure to join us again next week here on News Channel 8. Have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of you watching. Thank you.